Are you worried about the possibility of OSHA showing up at your front door for a surprise inspection and not exactly sure how to prepare for that possibility? If that sounds like you, you've come to the right place, because I've put together this series of videos called How to Pass Your OSHA Inspection. In this edition, we're going to talk about the six most common types of OSHA citations, how much the fines are that go along with each of those citations, and most importantly, how to avoid them. But before getting into that, if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel and hit that notifications bell so that you're notified every time I upload new content, which will be 1 to 2 times per month, where I'm going to cover the most common environmental health and safety regulations and issues that impact small manufacturing and industrial companies. All right, so my name is Russell Carr, and as I mentioned in previous editions of this series, I've helped many small manufacturers navigate the entire OSHA enforcement process, from the initial inspection to helping companies fix the violations, and also helping them to fight back to get citations and even fines thrown out. And in this series, I'm going to share with you everything that I've learned through that process so that you can get yourself prepared and pass your OSHA inspection. All right, so with that said, let's get into this. All right, so now let's get started. Let's go ahead and talk about the various OSHA citation types and associated fines that go along with each one of them. And before jumping into these citation types and fines, I want to explain how they decide which citations to apply to a violation and fines and so forth. And the basic criteria is actually pretty simple. They evaluate whether or not the violation that they find during the inspection could result in a serious illness or injury to an employee. So if there's an imminent danger to employees, the higher risk of that imminent danger, the more severe the citation and the fine is going to be. So keep that in mind as we go through these. All right, so the first type of violation is what's called a de minimis violation. And a de minimis is really just a technical violation of an OSHA rule that has no direct impact on health or safety. In other words, it doesn't create that imminent risk imminent risk of danger to employees that I talked about. So examples of this could include written program improvements, a ladder having a 12-inch gap between rungs rather than the standard saying that it has to have a 12-inch gap and so forth. So again, these are low-risk violations. And as a result of that, there's no maximum fine and typically no fine at all associated with de minimis violations. So this is the lowest grade citation out there. Now the next type is called an other than serious violation. So this is a violation that would not usually cause death or serious injury, not typically cause that imminent risk, but there is nevertheless related to employee health and safety. So the maximum penalty for each such violation is actually $14,502, which is a lot of money. But inspectors can choose not to levy a fine at all or to reduce the penalty by as much as 95%. So inspectors make decisions about penalties based on factors such as the size of the company, how much the company cooperates with them during the inspection, management commitment, that kind of thing. And examples of other than serious include, failure to provide copies of safety regulations, not posting, posters about safety in work areas, that kind of thing. So typically what we see with other than serious violations, I've never seen a maximum $14,000 fine. Usually they're going to be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, depending on the judgment of the inspector and the size of the business, things that we talked about before. Now let's talk about the most common type of violation by far, which are called serious violations. All right, so these are violations that create that imminent risk for serious injury, illness, or even a fatality that we talked about before. So the maximum fine for a serious is $14,502, but again, inspectors can discount based on the size of the company, the company's previous record, whether or not you have written programs in place, the company leadership's attitude towards safety, that kind of thing. So in our experience, after everything is considered, the final serious violation results in a total fine typically between $7,000 and $8,000, but we have definitely seen them Seen them max out at 14,502, even for small companies. And that's when you have a lot of violations, bad attitude about safety, nothing in place, that kind of thing. So again, these are the most common type. These are serious violations, are what you want to be worried about. And common examples of this, include lack of machine guarding to protect against pinch points and exposures on equipment, lack of employee PPE use, lack of lockout tagout procedures, lack of employee training, and many more. So again, these can really stack up quickly and get very expensive. Now we come to arguably the worst type of violation, which is called a willful violation. So a willful is when the violation creates the same imminent risk as serious violations, but the inspector also determines that the company either intentionally created the hazard, all right, or knew about the hazard, but failed to take action to correct and fix it. So this is basically when they can prove, negligence when it comes to safety at a company. And when this happens, the maximum fine, believe it or not, is $145,027 each. But again, depending on circumstances, they can reduce the total fine based on the same criteria that we've talked about before. So the most important takeaway is that if you already know about a serious hazard at your company, it's vital that you take action now to correct it. Or if you get inspected, you're gonna, risk a willful violation. Again, very, very expensive, and these happen all the time. I can't understate that to small companies, and they often max out because if they see a willful, they typically don't want to discount it. They're trying to send a message, and they're not afraid to do that. So willful violations, worst kind. Now we're going to come to another very severe citation, which are called, repeat violations. And so as the name suggests, this is when a company has already been cited for a specific violation in the past and then gets inspected again, and the same or similar violation is found again. And again, the maximum fine for this is the same as a willful violation, which is $145,027. So keep in mind, if you get inspected at some point in time and you're cited, that is going to stay on your record forever. There used to be a 5-year limit on that, but really it's going to stay on your record forever. And it's also for all your different locations. So if you get cited at one location and they find a similar or the same violation at another location for your company, even if it's in another state, they can cite you at that other location for a repeat violation. So, again, they can make adjustments here, but typically they don't because they're trying to send a message. So again, more motivation not to ever get that initial citation, because once that happens again, now you're at risk for repeats in the future, which are very common. And finally, we come to the last type of violation, which is called a failure to abate. So these trigger after an inspection when OSHA gives a deadline to correct a hazard or hazards, but the company fails to do so. And when this happens, they can actually issue a maximum of $14,502 per day per violation. So these can add up very, very quickly, as you can see here. These are rare. These are cases where a company gets cited and the company just doesn't pay attention. They're negligent, they're willful. And, this is the repercussions of that. Again, pretty rare, but they do happen. $14,502 per day. All right. So, I wanted to say real quickly here, if you've ever been through an OSHA fine, you have any experience dealing with these different types of citations, the final fines that you were levied, feel free to post about it below. I'll be happy to respond to any questions that you might have, any comments that you might have. And with that said, that pretty much covers all the different citations and fines that OSHA can issue to your company if you're not in compliance. All right, so let me begin to wrap up by asking you a very simple but also a very important question, and that's this. Are you and your company really ready if OSHA shows up tomorrow in your lobby for a surprise inspection? The fact is, if you're like most small manufacturing and industrial companies, the answer is probably no. And if that sounds like you, don't feel bad. Again, you're not alone. But the fact is, if that's the case, you are currently at major risk. The fact is that OSHA goes across the country every single day and hits small companies just like yours and issues all kinds of citations, fines, and penalties that often run into the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you got to ask yourself, could you really afford that? So having said that, I also want to make the point that the best preparation and the best way to pass an inspection is to know and have the confidence that you have a fully functioning OSHA compliance health and safety program. I know that's easier said than done, but at this point in time, I want to make a very special, free, no obligation offer to you to help you get on track if you don't have a safety program right now. I want to offer you free enrollment in our small manufacturer safety school. So let me tell you about this program. What it does is it gives you the training, the knowledge, and the resources so you can actually start to build a customized safety program and get prepared for that inspector. So let me explain what comes with that program. It's a three-parter. Number one, we have the mini OSHA crash course designed specifically to meet the needs of small manufacturing and industrial companies. So in this free training, I'm going to walk you step by step through the process of determining which OSHA compliance requirements apply to your company and how to build that program and how to manage that program for the long term. Another really important thing to understand about this crash course, it's built for non-experts. So most of the people, most of the companies that come to us, they don't know anything about safety. So I built that program with that in mind. So even if you know nothing from safety, you'll really benefit from it. The other thing that you're going to get is an OSHA compliance check sheet. So after you watch the course, you can use this as a self-assessment, gap assessment tool to see which one of these OSHA laws applies to your company, figure out if you have it in place or not. If you don't, this document will also function as sort of a roadmap forward to get your company on the road towards compliance. The final thing that we're offering in the Small Manufacturer Safety School, I'm going to invite you to live, free, monthly training sessions where I'm going to do deep dives and cover everything that's covered in the crash course so that you can learn step-by-step instructions for actually how to build a customized safety program for your company. Again, it's free, it's no obligation, you have absolutely nothing to lose. I'm going to put a link in below the video here where you can enroll and get started immediately on your road towards compliance. I look forward to seeing you in some of those live sessions. Also, make sure to stick around for the next edition of how to pass your OSHA inspection. And finally, if you haven't already and you like what you learned today, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Make sure to hit that notifications bell so that you're notified every time that I upload new content, which will be 2 to 3 times per month, diving deep into the environmental health and safety regulations and issues that impact small manufacturing and industrial companies. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.